Welcome everybody to another developer interview here on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. I am Josh Beiser, and for tonight, we have a chat with PuppyGames, the developer behind titles such as Revenge of the Titans, and they are currently working on the Kickstarter, or have the Kickstarter promotion going on for Battledroid. So, please welcome from the studio to discuss it, Cass. How are you doing?
Hi there, Josh. I'm very good, thank you. If I sneeze a lot in the middle of this interview, it's because the hay fever's bad here. So, just warning you in advance.
I have horrible allergies, so I can certainly attest to it, and my voice may die in and out throughout our conversation. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
But it's great to have you on. Cass has been following the site and channel for a long time. This is our actual first time we're sitting down and chatting about PuppyGames. So it is great to have you on. As I always tell our guests and everyone watching, if you are a developer working on an upcoming game or just want to talk game dev, I'm always looking for a guest. So do not be afraid to reach out to me any which way. So, as I said a moment ago, you have a Kickstarter going on for the game Battledroid. And I'll be timing this cast goal probably as the campaign is still going on. So for everyone watching, be sure to check that out. There'll be a link to it down below. But before we get to talking about that, could you talk a little bit more about your background and about PuppyGames for people who aren't familiar with you?
Background is I'm a Java programmer, which is not a typical language to make games with these days. But it's a great language to do with television result systems for a general election program. But it's not renowned for its graphical prowess, right? So I thought, well, we're writing the result systems. Why don't we try and do some graphics for the BBC as well? And we could do the swingometer directly from the result systems. Needless to say, the BBC told us to sod off. You've never done it before, and we thought, yeah, fair enough. We haven't. But it didn't stop me thinking, well, all right, let's see what graphics we can do. And I started writing a graphics library to make Java do high-performance graphics, okay? And this library became known eventually as the Lightweight Java Game Library, or LUWJGL, which was a terrible word, but that's what it's called. You may or may not have heard of it before, but it's the graphics library that Minecraft uses. So there's the link, see? Java, Minecraft, Lightweight Java Game Library, and me. We're all vaguely involved. The difference is that I'm very poor, because it was a free library, which makes me cry into my sandy pillow every night while Marcus Persson obviously wipes his tears away with $50 notes or whatever. Anyway, so I got this graphics library. I'm good at programming Java. And then I kind of think, putting numbers into boxes that go into databases is kind of dull. I could do something more interesting. I could write a game. And then about that sort of time, I bumped into my old friend Chaz from school. I've known Chaz since we were 12 years old, so I've known 40-odd years. And he went off to university. When I knew him, he was really good at painting. He went off to university and he came back and he was a whiz with 3D Studio Max and Photoshop. So he thought, let's make a game. So we made a game. We made a game called Alien Flux, which released in 2003. Nobody remembers it because we sold 365 copies. Yeah, those were the days. $20 each, mind. This was before Steam, and everything had to be downloaded over a crappy 28k modem. So that's where we started. We just made an arcade game. We made a few more arcade games. What were they called again? Titan Attacks, Ultratron, Droid Assault were 3 more arcade games we made. Another one called Super Dudes that nobody remembers at all, which we still say no more of. And then about, was it 2009 or so, this Steam thing seemed to be picking up a bit of speed, right? So we thought, well, let's try and make a game that will try and get onto Steam. So we made this game, Revenge of the Titans, which was a mashup idea of tower defense and real-time strategy. Because we didn't want to do all real-time strategy or just pure tower defense. When it's like, well, how can we mix these 2 genres together to make an interesting game? And we said, hey, Steam, do you want our new game? And they said, no. So it was like, oh, okay. Fine. And then Jeffrey Rosen from the Humble Indie Bundle randomly contacted us out of the blue. I'd kind of met him before online, and we talked a bit. And he said, "Hey, we're doing a Humble Indie bundle. Do you want to stick, Titan Attacks and join the Sultan or something like that?" I said, "Well, it's funny you should say that. We've got a new game now. It's called Revenge of the Titans. Would you like us to debut this game on the Humble Indie bundle?" So he said, "Yeah, that sounds good." So I was working at Sony at the time, not in the games department, in the broadcast production research laboratories in a place called Basingstoke, which will later become significant. And obviously the Humble Indie Bundle 2 happened, which is the one we're in the second one. And Revenge of the Titans made, couple $100,000 in this overnight, and we were like, oh. So I kind of turned up at work a few days later, and Sony went, "Screw you guys, I'm getting him," and quit. And thought, yeah, I'm a games developer now. I can make games, and then basically failed to make many games for the next 10 years. But anyway, Revenge of the Titans was our most successful title. But a lot of people asked us, "Can you just add multiplayer?" And we're like, "Oh, what do you mean just? You know how just difficult multiplayer actually is?" And just thinking about how do you make a real-time strategy stroke tower defense game into a multiplayer game? For a start, it's a game with two completely different sides. You've got some guys sat there defending, and some guys got to attack. It's like who chooses what, and all right, fair enough. We could maybe work around that and say, well, you do the one thing and you do the other thing. But what if you wanted to do both? And so this was around 2010. We'd released Revenge of the Titans. Valve finally said, "Oh yeah, no problem. You can put Revenge of the Titans on our store now. We know that you're vaguely good, and your other games." So we stuck all the other games on. We rewrote them all and made them look prettier just for Steam as well, which was quite good. And then about 2010, we were thinking, right, how do we make a multiplayer Revenge of the Titans? Because people are asking for it. What can we do? What are our constraints? Now, this is where Battledroid was invented. But we came up with the thing. Well, let's call it Battledroid for the sake of it. And how's the market going? We thought, what are the constraints that we have? What can we do? Well, it seems to me that actually selling games to people is getting harder and harder. And remember, this is 14 years ago, right? Is people just getting people to part with just like $1 for a game was getting quite tricky because they're like, I don't know why, but everybody decided they didn't want to pay rich money for games anymore, especially indie games. So we thought, all right, let's try making it free. So our first constraint was we've got to make a game that's basically free. Anybody can just play it. And you don't need to have any money to play it at all. And that'll get more exposure than any other kind of game. Because one of the barriers to entry for anyone playing a game is if they got to part with money for it would seem. So there was a constraint. And another constraint was that me and Chaz are just me and Chaz. We're not a studio. No, we haven't got offices and servers and stuff like that. It's just me and Chaz. I work in my spare time, and Chaz has got a computer in his bedroom. We can't go putting a massive £1 million AAA marketing budget out there and make sure there's a constant stream of players that are always online trying to kill each other, right? We're not making Helldivers 2. We're not having anyone's going to turn up. We're going to have one of those famous indie situations where someone new buys the game and launches it and clicks on the server thing, and it's like tumbleweed. So there's nobody else to play against, and that's the perennial problem with indie games. You can't build up the momentum you need to make anything multiplayer, let alone massively multiplayer. So there was another constraint. How can we make it multiplayer but with no players? Right. So we hit upon the asynchronous design at that point, which was I suppose we can maybe get into a bit of the meat of Battledroid now, which is why it is what it is. So it is a massively multiplayer online game, right? There is no currently a single player aspect to it, although we are probably going to work on one, because guess what? All the people who are clamoring for multiplayer now, right, or then, are all saying, can we have a single player version of the game too? It's like, oh, right, what do you want? The moon on a stick? Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we'll do that for you. But it's going to take a while, right? So massively multiplayer, online, asynchronous, player versus player battle simulator, right? The reason it's a simulator will also become apparent when I explain some more stuff about it. It's not a tower defense game, and it's not a real-time strategy. But it has, again, some small elements of both still in there, which we've kind of lifted from Revenge of the Titans. So there's still a base, right? The player still creates a base, plonks it somewhere, preferably with its back against a rock so nobody can sneak up behind it. And then you stick some turrets down from your inventory of turrets, maybe some utility buildings that augment the turrets, give them bigger guns or longer range scanners, some barricades, maybe a minefield, maybe a few little robots too, to back them up so the robots can run around. And then you deploy your base somewhere on the earth, sit and wait for somebody to come and blow it up. Or attempt to blow it up, because the point is they're not supposed to blow it up. They're supposed to fail, and you're supposed to laugh at their charred remains. So the other side of the game was obviously you are that person who has tried to blow someone else up. So you go and look at the world and go, who's got a base? You've got a base, I'm going to blow it up. You go and open up their base and look at it, and there it is, sat there looking all sparkly and shiny. You place down your squadrons of robots ready to march and unleash electric death upon them. And then that's it for your involvement. You just press play, and off they go and blow each other to bits. And everything's completely autonomous after the point you press deploy. So there's no other interaction apart from what is essentially a really glorified level editor. So you're either making a base or you're making an attack. And then you watch the battle. It's quite fun watching the battle. That's part of the design, was to make it pretty to watch. That came later. The original design was 2D, like Revenge of the Titans, but a few years in, we realised that it wasn't going to do the game justice if it was just little 2D sprites, and everything was looking really fancy these days and so forth. So we went all in and said, well, let's do 3D graphics. What can we do that looks like our stuff? Voxels. Yeah, okay, why not? Because the editor's free. We use a tool called Magica Voxel. If anybody wants to do voxel art, Magica Voxel is the tool, right? It's the shizzle. You've got to use it, and it doesn't cost any money. And all of our stuff's done in Magica Voxel, and then we animate it in Blender, which is also free. You see a pattern here, right? And we wrote our own voxel engine, and that started in 2016. I think we started working on the voxel engine. Now you've got to remember that we go to work on this stuff part-time, right? It's just evening. So I've got a day job. Super Attack programmer Dan is our engine programmer. He's got a day job too. Currently he works for CCCP on EVE Online. He's one of their graphics whizzes. But we have him captured. He's our tame graphics programmer, and he does all the clever stuff in Battledroid to make it look really pretty. And I just do the gameplay kind of programming. And that's where we're at. And it's taken about 8 years since Dan came on the scene and started doing the voxely bit for us to just get it to the point where we've managed to get a demo together for Steam Next Fest. There's another story behind that, and a Kickstarter. So I guess the game is it's not anywhere near finished, but it's playable, and it's playable quite well. We've got over 1,000 players currently because of the Next Fest demo has brought a whole load of new players in, because previously it was just fans and Patreons and stuff like that came along. We would give them keys, say go and blow each other up and see what it's like. And we got 1,000 new people turn up and started blowing each other up too. And the it's not getting anywhere near full, but it's certainly a little bit more exciting than it was a few weeks ago. And this Kickstarter is just effectively to have enough money to keep Chaz in, fags, wine and coffee. Chaz lives in Spain these days, and he subsists on cigarettes and coffee and wine pretty much. So he's quite cheap. So our modest Kickstarter goal would actually go quite a long way. It would keep Chaz in beans for like 6 months, and then the rest of the money from the Kickstarter we were going to try and spend on an advertising campaign to try and get people to actually try the game when we launched it, which is coming quite soon. This launch. However, the Kickstarter's not doing too well. Give us all of your money. There are fantastic rewards for joining the Kickstarter. The game may be free, but we can still give you stuff for money. So yeah, there we go. That's where we're at now. We have a world. It's full of people blowing each other up. They have bases. They get robots. What else would we like to know about it all? Have you any questions so far, Josh? Have I talked too much?
Nah, this is usually a normal when we have a developer on for the first time talk all about their history. As I get like the people listening to us record will probably know for some of our longer conversations. I guess for my first question, then, with Battledroid, you said like trying to come up with a way to have kind of like a multiplayer only game and then a single player only game, and then trying to combine the two together. I guess the auto battler style itself has been one that's definitely waxed and waned, especially I would say like the last 3 to 4 years. So with kind of like where Battledroid is at in terms of the gameplay itself, how much does like the player I guess can like manipulate things? Like obviously if it's being an all battle, you're not directing your army to fight another army, but what can the player control like on their side of things?
So defense wise, very little is in the player's control in the defense. So the things you can control, of course, is where to put your base. Obviously, if you stick a base in the middle of an empty desert, it can be attacked from all sides. It's a terrible choice. You want to stick it preferably in a little nook or cranny somewhere surrounded by rocks. So you've only got to worry about one front coming at you. The thing about the defending player is they've really got to think, what might I be assailed by? You know, who's going to come and get me? And because there are lots of different weapons and tactics in the attacker's repertoire. The defender has the difficult decision of what do I think's going to get me, and how can I defend against it? And there's some good tactics you can use, like laying a minefield, for example. The enemy can't see the minefield until they launch the attack, and then it's too late, and all of their little robots can wander into them and just blow to pieces. And it's like, yeah. But because the defense is uploaded and then forgotten about, that's the end of the defending player's extent of control. They can only just really guess what's going to happen and try and put it up. They can watch the battle afterwards. They can go back and replay it over and over again. Because the battles are supposedly supposed to be deterministic. The attacker, similarly, has only got control over placement, but of course they know where everything is that hasn't been hidden. There's a mechanism where when you place units down in defense, there's an exclusion zone around each of the units, which prevents any attackers from actually deploying in that area. So the idea is you can exclude up to 1/3 of all of the deployable territory. So if you space your deployments out, you can prevent the attacker from actually deploying places you don't want them to. You don't want them to come around behind you, for example. That'd be terrible. So you could exclude them that way. Use the rivers and canyons and rocks to try and, corral them in the way you want. So the attacker can place his units outside of the exclusion zone, but doesn't know what's in the exclusion zone if there's something hidden in there. So that's where the mines are hidden. Mm. Mines are always placed inside the exclusion zone and only become apparent when they're stepped on. However, there is some small element of customization in, well, both the attackers and the defenders. Is each robot has a disposition. So you can give individual units a disposition of cowardly to cautious to aggressive to berserk, which adjusts its movement speed and its distance of engagement. So a berserk robot moves literally twice as fast as it ordinarily would, but it will close in to 0 range. It will try and run right up to its enemy and bash it. Whereas a cowardly robot will only move at 3/4 of its ordinary speed and will stay at the absolute maximum range of its weapons. And this is important. It's an important strategical decision to keep some units at the back and some units to rush forwards, because the robots themselves always behave in roughly the same way. They're kind of predictable in some ways. They're a bit janky. They're not super intelligent. They've got pathfinding and targeting programming in them, but it's all emergent as to how clever they appear to be. They're not very clever, and they can be fooled into doing stupid things. So if if a million little robots swarm a large robot, they'll all run inside its minimum firing range, and it won't be able to attack them. However, because robot targeting says I must shoot the nearest robot, it will try and walk backwards and shoot the buggers that are trying to get its feet, ignoring just beyond the little robots your big robot that you've got that's also wailing on it. So the big robot will use the little robots as a shield and blow the other guy up while it's dealing with all the stupid little ones. So there's all kinds of little emergent tactics and behaviors coming out of things like that. But the extent of interaction is simply that. It's all set up before the battle. It's a true auto battler. There's no interaction beyond that. You don't even have the option to run away or surrender. If you abort a battle, you automatically lose it, which sucks to be you, I guess. But because it's a free game, we've got certain mechanisms in there to stop people who there's two kinds of people in a free to play game. There's those with money, no time, and there's those with time and no money. Very rarely both at the same time. And we wanted to make sure everybody enjoys the game equally. So there's been occasional talk of some game called Clash of Clans, which believe it or not, I've been living under a rock for 20 years. Right? I don't know many computer games really. Clash of Clans has apparently got some similar concepts that Battledroid. It's something to do with attacking other people's bases, but it's got this curse of pay to win attached to it, which everybody whines about a lot. Apparently, if you got money, you just wail on someone else's base. If they got less money than you win, or something like that. I don't know because I haven't played it. I don't know how it works. But I've been at great pains to make sure the Battledroid's not like that. So the battles are points balanced. In fact, our model, right, is Warhammer 40k. Am I allowed to say that? Well, anybody trademark us for that. But Warhammer 40k is a game where you effectively buy miniatures from Games Workshop. You collect them, right, and then you take them around a mate's house, and you agree which ones you're all going to use. And then there's a points limit. You say, right, we're going to have a 2,000 point game. And then you choose out of the collections of miniatures you've got which ones you're going to field and how many points they're going to cost, and stick them in the battle. And then it's roughly balanced. So if you turn up with 12 dreadnoughts and some elite squad or whatever, then the guy who's carries you out has only got, I've only got 15 Space Marines, so you can't field all them. They'll just get flattened. So you're only allowed to field like 3 units, and that's how Battledroid works. The defender sets the points limit. Says, right, this is 1,000 point defense, so you're only allowed to bring 1,000 points to the attack. So it doesn't matter if you buy loads of robots because you're rich, because that's how we're planning to make some money with the game, is people buying robots to collect, right? Got to make money somehow. But you can only bring those robots to a similarly enormous battle with somebody else who's put a load of big robots down. Otherwise, it would be really unfair and not much fun for the defenders if you just turned up and trounced all over them with some gazillion, 3 billion megahertz laser zapping battle killer, right? And they're just like, oh no, our defenses are ruined. So the points limit goes a long way towards balancing it. But there's another aspect of free to play, of course, which is that people with loads of time just keep at it, right? And they won't stop. Whereas if you're one of them rich working types, right, and you've got half an hour in between grinding away from the boss and wrangling the kids in the evening to just get your 3 minutes. Well, I just want to play my computer game for a short while. What can I do? And they say and find, oh no, during the day, armies of students have wiped out everything I owned because they can play forever because they got all the time in the world and they're trying to avoid doing studies. Damn them. And so there's a mechanism in Battledroid to stop this, which is silver, which is a non-premium currency which is generated within the game, and it replenishes constantly throughout the day. But every attack you make costs silver, whether you win or lose. So you have to choose your attacks wisely. You can't just spaff robots at the enemy and think, yeah, eventually I'm going to grind him down and figure out how to get past this defense. You'll run out of silver and say, right, that's your lot. So that's our mechanism for dealing with people with loads of time and no money. And our mechanism for people dealing with loads of money and no time.
So does the silver cost, is it a flat cost, or is it based on like the type of units that you're trying to field?
It's a straightforward cost based on the points value of the unit. So
Okay.
if it's 1,000 point defense and you field a 980 point attack, then it'll cost 980 silver. It's a straight 1-to-1 conversion. There's nothing complicated going on there, and everybody gets from no matter where they start from, they will all get 10,000 silver a day, right? And when you conquer territories and hold them, while you've got those territories, they produce varying amounts of silver depending on their value, right? So if you've got 10 territories, they could be producing another 1,000 silver a day for you. And the other way by which your silver income goes up is by increasing in rank. And rank is increased by conquering unique territories that you've not conquered before. So you can't just sit there going backwards and forwards on the same territory over and over again, attacking it, conquering it, and going back. You've got to keep moving around. You've got to spread your army around and move across the world and try and conquer unique places. And then it's like a non-linear progression of increasing rank by the number of territories you own. So it's not the value of the territories, just the sheer numbers of them. So it's like when you've got your first 5 territories, then you go up to the first rank. And by way of an introduction to beginner players, we've made it so that when you're unranked, you just start the game. Attacks cost no silver at all. You can just keep on attacking because you won't know what you're doing. You're just going to lose all the time, aren't you? So you might as well let people make loads of crappy attacks with their straightforward until they eventually figure out what they're doing, capture 5 territories, and then suddenly it starts to cost them silver. It's like, no, go to bed now, you've run out.
And with kind of like the building your army itself, does your army get like built in real time, or is it just a case of if I want to attack with 300 units, go my army, pick my 300 units, send them out, let the battle begin?
These miniatures, they're yours in your inventory, so it's almost like you have a little box that you take with you with all your little plastic guys in. They're not produced or anything like that. They don't get depleted. They're always there, except when it comes to defense. When you make a defense, you are in fact going around somebody's house, leaving your miniatures there on his table, which means they can no longer be used in attacks because they're on somebody else's house. You can't take them anywhere else. They're defending that place. So if you think of each hex in the world, there's 250,000 hexes in the world that you can, it's the real Earth divided up. Each one is just like a friend's house that you've gone around and left some miniatures around in a formation and say, right, anybody wants to come around and try and blow up my units, go ahead. If somebody does come around and blows them all up and wins the territory, then your units just get sent back to you. They just get posted back to you. You get them back again. They automatically straight back in your inventory. You've got them back to use in attacks again. But it puts a hard limit on how many territories you can control because eventually you're going to run out of units.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And again, it's a free game, but we've got to figure out some way of helping people to give us some money. So the idea is people are going to buy some gold, the premium currency. And with that, they'll buy some more units. If they want to get really crazy about expanding and holding loads of territory, and therefore getting loads of silver and playing even more, if they get really enthusiastic by the game, they'll buy some gold. And it's not expensive, it's like I think $1 buys 10,000 gold, and 10,000 gold buys 1,000 units. Right? Gold again it's really easy to work out. It's a 1-to-1 ratio from gold to points. So 10,000 gold buys 1,000 units. There you go. 1,000 units costs 10,000 points to field. Yeah, and as you progress in rank as well, the whole idea of going up in rank means you can your points, the maximum allowance for your deployment for defense increases. So the idea of being a higher rank is that you get to put bigger and bigger and crazy defenses down for people to come and attack. So eventually it gets really big. There's like we've got a hard limit of 1,000 units per side right? Which doesn't sound that big, but when you actually see 1,000 units attacking each other, it looks like an enormous, World War II battle going on down there. Got some videos of that kind of stuff up on the internet, where just showing little snippets of these enormous battles going on. It's quite crazy looking.
About, is there a cost of building defense units, or is a cost only associated to attacking?
Right, no, there's only a cost associated with attacking, right? And the idea about this comes back to the MMO multiplayer asynchronous aspect of the game, which is effectively we didn't have any plans to make a single player game originally, right? We thought this basically what we're making here is user generated content. It's like we would like the players to make all the fun maps for people to attack, but that's asking. It's a big ask. It's like, please make some quality content bases for us for other people to blow up. So you can't penalise that particularly, because that would be a bit unfair, wouldn't it? Please make all the cool stuff for other people to blow up, and it's going to cost you. So there's no incentive for anybody to do it. So the very most we could do was say, well, you can't just spam a million brilliant robots down all the time. You've got to leave them behind, so you can't use an attack. So there is a bit of a balance in there, but it's only attacks that will cost you silver. And not too long ago, there was also a mechanism in the game where if you ran out of silver, it would start using gold for your attacks. But just recently took that out because I realised that too was a bit too pay to winish. It meant somebody with loads of money, so not even loads of money, somebody with some money would just keep on attacking till they won. And it was like, well, that's a bit rubbish. So can't do that anymore either.
And the one other question I had, like, regarding, like, having, like, setting up defenses and having someone, like, attack you, like, multiple times, how does your defenses get, like, restored? Like, is it a case of, like, they restore, like, over, like, X amount of minutes? Or is it, like, once the attacker just, like, says, I give up, I can't beat you anymore, they leave, do your defenses get restored at that point?
They are restored immediately. If they fail, it's just like anything that basically you have to win, otherwise it's all or nothing. If you fail an attack, then suddenly next time you come back, they're all still there, right? But it's similar for the attackers. It's like you don't lose anything; you just have to try again. You can try the same attack over and over again, just move robots around or twiddle with their disposition. I forgot actually. There's another disposition modification that attackers can make, which is to choose which kinds of target to prioritize. You could choose whether you want to attack the robots or the turrets or the base. There's a quick win condition, another mention. If all the defenses are destroyed, then you de facto won, right? Because there's nothing going to stop you. But there's a shortcut, is if you can destroy the enemy base, then all of his units shut down and you win as well. And you'll get your silver back that you didn't lose in the battle. So if you can shortcut an attack, it'll cost you less and also quite amusing. There's a really cheesy attack that you can do on people, which hopefully most people discover quite early on, though, is if you don't quite protect the back of your base properly, then the attacker can sometimes sneak in a robot, one tiny little rubbish 10-point robot right behind it, and it'll just sit there shooting at it for about 5 minutes till the base blows up. It's like really cheesy. Single robot death wins the game. But yeah, should be aware of that.
In terms of, like, unit design, you mentioned like they're not designed to be, super advanced Skynet AI. I guess with, like, kind of like the variety of units, like, do you have anything that, like, separates, like, the different units from each other, I guess, in terms of, like, special ability, special utility? Or is it just a case of lots of robots marching in one line or one direction, kill everything that they see?
Yeah, there is actually quite a bit of differentiation in the robots, even now, even though we've only really scratched the surface of what we can do with it. There's obviously they come in all different sizes and shapes. Got really big ones that are lumbering and slow, and we've got little scurrying ones that run quite fast. They've all got different drive units, so there's you've got bipedal and quadrupedal robots. You've got wheeled robots, you've got tracked robots. We've got anti-grav robots, hover skirt robots, and we will eventually have flying units as well. Like a drone. Not like jet fighters, because that'd be really dull. They just fly off and disappear. It'd be quite a dull game then if they just all whizzed off. This cost is very significant when it comes to the territory you're attacking. the terrain has a significant effect on the robot's movement speed depending on the drive unit they've got. So anti-grav droids, for example, can move over everything at full speed. Crevasses, rivers, rocks, low rocks, that is. And the only disadvantage is that because the anti-grav can't take very much weight, you'll find those droids aren't very well armored or have very big guns. Hover skirt robots can cross water. They can't cross chasms. Wheeled robots can go 3 times as fast if they hit a road. So there are roads generated in some of the trains with cities on. The wheeled robots can shoot along those roads really quickly. And distance and closing speed is very important in Battledroid. Because while your robots are approaching turrets, they're getting shot at. So if they can get there quicker, then they get shot at less. That's an important consideration, is the speed of a droid, or whether it has to path all the way around a river just to get, around the other side of it. Because rivers are, significant terrain feature that quite irritating. We haven't released the anti-grav robots yet. They're still sat there waiting to get the wings. Got various different weapon designs. So we've got what we call kinetic weapons, which are like machine guns, miniguns, howitzers, auto cannon, that kind of stuff. Actually, not the howitzer. That's slightly different. We've got blaster weapons, which look just like blasters. Actually made the sound effect by whacking a slinky with a tuning fork. Very good noise. And they have different uses. The kinetic weapons pass straight through shielding without doing anything, but they're quite easily stopped by armor. So if you've got an armored unit, there's various levels of armor. We got, Kevlar, steel, plasteel, titanium, nano mesh, adamantium. There's a whole range of different armors that the things can have. And some armor is completely invulnerable to some weapons, but blasters specifically have high armor piercing quality, so they can punch through armor. So that's why you'd use blasters. But blasters can be shielded against, so you can get shields which have generators that recharge them. So they stop blasters completely in other energy weapons. So there's that little bit of rock, paper, scissors going on with blasters versus kinetics and shields and armor. And we've got shotgun style weapons that fire a massive spread of bits at enemies and stun them so they can stop moving for a couple of moments and don't do anything, which is quite effective in assaults. We've got laser weapons that fire a microscopically thin beam directly through everything in their path so they can hit several at the same time. We've got rocket batteries which explode obviously and blow things to bits that are all around. That's complemented by grenade launchers that do an indirect fire. And they fire at enemies by being spotted by infantry. So if you rush infantry in and get a line of sight on the enemy's base, then the artillery units can fire from all the way across the other side of the map at them without being harassed at all. So a defense that doesn't have any roving units to go out and do something about that is just going to get pummeled by howitzers and grenade launchers without ever firing a shot. So you've got to have some robots defended against in case somebody deploys a grenade launcher at you. There are point defense weapons that you can deploy in defense that will shoot incoming grenades and rockets. So you've got a defense against them, even if you haven't got any way of stopping them from firing at you. You can shoot the shells out of the air. We've got homing missiles. We've got disruptors, which are like an area effect weapon that emanates from a point. So you go, and then all of the electronics and all the robots nearby just suddenly fry. Got flamethrowers, which just set things on fire. They eventually just blow up a few seconds later because they can't burn forever. And then, of course, all of these things, there's a counter effect as well. You can have bomb proofing to stop explosives from damaging your robots, or laser mirror coating to stop lasers from damaging, and things of that nature. So there's a whole load of variety of things in there, which we've only actually released, about 25% of the various capabilities we could do at the moment. We've got a whole load of designs that Chaz has done that are in the game, but we haven't released the players yet because we just want to perfect them a bit more and see how the existing stuff goes before we chuck in any more crazy, unbalanced weaponry to see how that works out. Then we have other equipment on the turrets and robots that isn't directly related to just the actual blowing each other up part and moving, but like the scanners. So that each robot's got like a monocular or binocular or trinocular or even a sensor array, and that covers the range at which you can see enemies. So you can see a robot's range, you hover the mouse over it, you get a little spinny circle. That's how far it can shoot to, or rather how far it can see. Obviously, they all know where all the other enemies are at all times, because otherwise they just stand there and do nothing. But they can't actually make an attack against anything that's not in their sensor range. So if you've got a robot with lasers, beam laser, there's no point in having it. It's got short sensor range because it's wasting all of the capability of his weapon because it can't shoot anything at the end of its range. And then we have weather conditions in the game as well. So we've got fog and rain and snow and gales and blizzards and dust storms. What's interesting about the weather conditions is, apart from the fact that they affect robots, if a robot's in fog, its sensor range is severely reduced. This means long range weaponry is useless if you're in fog. Likewise, if it's dark, if you attack in the dark, then you can't be seen. So they'll get really close before they start shooting each other. So a ground assault with infantry units is much more effective at night time because enemy turrets can't see you until you get really close. But you have the same problem, is you can't see them, the enemy turrets, until you get really close. But all of this stuff it's real, actually, in the world now. So we've modelled the position of the Earth around the sun and the tilt of the Earth and the seasons and the real time of the spin of the Earth, so that when you look at a territory right now, if we went to look at Basingstoke right now here in the UK, you'd see the sun was about a foot off the horizon, and it's sunny, but it's about to rain. We're using real-time weather lookup as well, so we get our weather conditions from the actual worldwide weather satellite data. So we know whether it's actually raining or actually blowing a gale or actually sunny. We know where the sun is. If you go down to the Arctic, for example, it's sunny for 6 months of the year and then pitch black for 6 months of the year because the sun never gets above the horizon. And this all affects the robots that are there because, of course, it's dark. They can't see very far. But you get buffs. You can buff your robots, especially if you're an attacker. You can drop a crate down, buff your entire army with infrared night vision, much to the annoyance of defenders. So there's counter effects for anything that might be happening. You can apply it. There's a general buffing mechanism in the attack, which is in the form of crates. This is the only consumable item in the game, and you can't buy them. So that you get them, as you play the game, you get these like medals for achievements. Basically, every time you conquer a new territory, you get a medal. You log in, you get a medal. You go up a rank, you get a big medal. Lots of different stupid things. So if you kill 1,000 robots, you get a medal. When you redeem them, you click on them and it goes, you get a thing, and it gives you something like +5 barricades or 12 mines or this big robot. Or you might get a thing called a buff, which is like a crate drop. And the buffs are consumable, so you put them down in an attack, right? And there'll be like a buff that's, say, +25% damage. Every single robot in your attacking army will have +25% damage at that point. But that increases the points cost of your attack because it works out points dynamically. And it decides, well, in that case, your army costs 25% more to deploy. So there's a balance even there. You can't just go, I'll just spam buffs and then I'm going to win this fight. You have to use less robots. So not necessarily always a clear-cut answer as to whether a buff's going to help you or not. And you can put down up to 4 of any particular kind of buff to really enhance the army there. But then if the attack wins or fails, you lose them. They disappear, and the next time you look, they're gone. So they're a special resource that's consumed. The only thing in the game that is consumed. It's like cheating. But you can't do it much. You can only do it when you get given them, and they're kind of quite rare. Well, obviously, one of the buffs you get is infrared night vision, and there's another one which is X-ray, which allows them to see in the fog. So you can work around nighttime conditions or foggy conditions with these particular buffs.
With regards to the upgrades that you have for units, are the upgrades kind of like are you free to upgrade any unit? Are they kind of separate upgrades you apply to units, or does each unit have different upgrades themselves that you can pick and choose from?
Well, this is an interesting question because we're actually thinking about how to do this right now. The buffs thing, right, that I've just described, that is literally the entire army. It's a crate that you drop in. It doesn't matter where you drop because they vanish, but it buffs the whole army regardless. Upgrades is another thing you can get a drop on. They again, you can't buy them; they're only supplied in drops, and they are applied to a specific unit in a workshop screen, which we haven't made yet. So the idea is to go, I'll find my G101 guard bot and I'll apply infrared vision to it if you've got an infrared vision upgrade. And you can apply any number of upgrades to a droid up to your rank. So if you're rank 2, you can apply 2 upgrades to a droid. That just kind of limits the amount you can buff them. Their corresponding points cost also goes up to deploy them, right? So put a buff in a robot, it doesn't suddenly become amazingly powerful but still really cheap. It becomes more expensive. And it's the same formula that we use to work out the points values of the robots in the first place based on their stats. So it's roughly as balanced as the game is from its initial points calculations when we did the spreadsheet to work out, what robots should cost. So if you buff a robot supremely, it will suddenly become really expensive to deploy. If you find you don't like that, you can remove the buff from a robot in the end, but it'll destroy it because that's just a thing, isn't it? You can't just keep a pool of buffs and keep moving them around between robots. That would be too fun. Too much fun indeed. So yes, there is going to be this workshop screen, which we haven't written yet. It's going in at some point in the next couple of months, where you'll be able to apply buffs to robots. They might get a bit more interesting and flavorful in name. We might actually, instead of just saying plus 25% damage, we might say particle ram thrusters or something stupid like that, like you do. But the game is notable at the moment for all of the flavor text in it is missing. It just says G101.blurb. And the big text box where it should say something funny about a robot, it just says, please write this sometime. Obviously, we haven't got time to write much, so we haven't done it yet.
All right.
So that's the idea with the upgrade stuff. Again, not a thing you can buy. We're not going to let people buy their way to victory here. Well, I'd say that, right? But the main thrust of marketing this game that we want people to understand is that we want to sell one of the DLC packs directly from the store page, right? We've got the Omnicorp Army Starter Pack, Voxbot Cavalier, and Wojtek. So there's these 3 army packs at different costs, and actual dollar costs, and you get a ton of different robots in each one, and a whole load of instances of those robots, and barricades, turrets, landmines, and things like that. As like a starter pack, and obviously because of the points balancing thing, there's no. You can't just buy the Omnicorp starter pack and just immediately trounce everybody. What having extra robots does is it opens up a load more strategy to you, and it means you can maybe control a bit more of the territory, because you've got more robots to leave, or turrets particularly, and therefore a bit more silver income perhaps, and therefore maybe you could play a bit more, which is perfectly fine if you've laid down $50 on an army pack, and that's all available. Well, it will be all available from the Steam store page. But it's also purchasable in-game, because that's one of the things about free games, isn't it? You kind of lure people into buying them directly in-game, and it uses a Steam overlay. And it's quite nifty, actually. I quite like the Steam overlay stuff. It works quite well.
Okay. Now, one thing that I want to ask, and this always pops up with any kind of like online PvP game, is the idea of matchmaking. Because as you said, like with the game being free to play, you're on people who are going to come in and like very like low rank, and there's always that issue with a lot of these games where I just start my account. Here's a level 99 guy just comes over and just destroys me again and again, and there's nothing I can do about it. How are you handling, I guess, like matchmaking, or like I guess like making sure that someone doesn't just immediately get stomped the second they turn on their base?
Well, first of all, there's no matchmaking at all in Battledroid. It's based on territorial proximity, really. It's another little mechanism I'm going to put in shortly. In fact, this weekend. A little while back, it was like this, and then we changed it, especially just before the demo. that when a player attacks a territory, at the moment, right this very moment, you can attack any hex in the whole world from anywhere. So you can just find someone who you don't like and go and kick their ass. If you happen to be, laden with massive Battledroids and they're just a piddly, I've just started the game up, what do? I'll put a base down and one turret and see what happens. And you'll blow it up. The mitigation here is that, first of all, it's the defender who calls the points limit on the battle. So again, if they've only got 1,000-point army down there, then you've only got 1,000 points to attack with. So you'll have more interesting strategies because you'll have some crazy looking robots. And in all honesty, hopefully the crazy looking robots, despite looking pretty and making more bigger explosions, will hopefully be more effective against trivial defenses. I mean, there's got to be some point to progression in owning robots, right? You bought some robots, they've got to be useful, got to win a bit more. So there is a little bit of an arms race we're hoping it's going to go on there. But we're hoping that the points balance stuff keeps things tempered so that it's not just a ridiculous walkover. Because that wouldn't be fun for anyone, would it? I mean, but then you also have to see it from the other side. It's like there's attackers and defenders, and both players play both parts. So you don't want to have an invincible defense any more than you want. Because if you've got an invincible defense, it means somebody else could. And where's the fun in that? So we're trying to do this whole rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock thing with all of the different units to make sure that with enough random drops, because obviously the free players are getting random drops every day, and for doing, just logging in and just play the game, they'll get random stuff. So they will gradually build up an army of interesting stuff, and the strategy will become more and more open to them as to what they can field, how they can attack. So it really becomes a point of like, if I'm attacking. Right? Do I really want to attack somebody who's put a 10,000 point defense down and who's like colonel rank or something like that? Because you can go and look at it, you can double click on it, download the map and look at what they put down and go, oh, sheesh, that's bristling with guns. There's no way I'm going to get near that. You'd be a fool to attack it. Even if you think you can win, you probably won't. Right? That's where the matchmaking is. There's some sense involved. There's a little bit of gambling in your head. Can I afford to waste the silver on futile attacks? Yeah? It's a 10,000 point attack. That's all of your day's silver gone for a beginner player. Why would you do it? It's like, there's no chance. Don't do it. Go and find somewhere else to kick. Find another lower level player. And we have this world screen with filters on it that allow you to filter the world in different ways. And one of the things you can do is show how big the points value is of an army in any hex. So it colors the world. The brighter the hex, the more points are in that hex. So you can get a rough idea of where you're likely to be more, successful by picking a smaller battle if you're a beginning player. Of course, we have to explain all this. There's not much of a tutorial yet. In fact, there isn't anything at all. Nobody knows how to play it. But that's where we're going with that. There's another subtle one, a subtle piece of mitigation as well, which I'm literally putting in this weekend, the final pieces to this. But remember I said that you only get advancement in rank if you attack a unique territory. Right, so there's no point in just continually wailing on someone, just griefing somebody who keeps on putting their rubbishy base up. And you just go, oh, I've got to blow it up again. Boom, and then I've got up to rank 50. That's not going to happen. They've got to move on. You've got to move on to some new territory. You can't just keep on griefing the same player over and over again. So once you've had your fun kicking his ass, go somewhere else, because there's no benefit to repeatedly attacking somebody. You're just losing silver. Maybe there's something cool in that territory that you want to get and keep. That's another thing we're talking about. Is what else are we fighting over than just land? Right? There's obviously the silver income from the territory, some worth more than others, but we're thinking we might add some cool, stupid things in there for people to collect. For example, in Basingstoke, my favourite town, there's a thing called the Wote Street Willy, right? Which is this big stone lump in the middle of the town. It looks a bit like a willy. Nobody knows why it's there. It's just there. But it would be a cool thing to own. So if you own Basingstoke on the map, you would have the willy, and it would show you this, and everybody else would know that you owned Wote Street Willy. Stuff like that, though. And maybe we'll have sets of collectible stuff. So if you collect all 5 of these things, then you've got a special medal for it. Other stupid quests of that nature would be quite entertaining, I think, but that's a little bit in the future where we work out the basics. Another thing that I'm working on putting in now is, I'd say, currently the demo players can attack anywhere they like because it's just simpler that way to let them just attack wherever they want. It's less confusing. We did have it so that previously you had to attack. You could only attack a territory that was adjacent to an existing territory you already owned, right? Mm-hmm. So you couldn't just randomly attack anywhere. You were based somewhere. Of course, this has the chicken and egg problem, right? Of well, what if I have no territory? You go, okay, right. So the design here is like, well, in that case, if you have no territory, you can attack any way you like, including smack in the middle of somebody's cleverly defended perimeters, right? Because obviously, if you can only attack adjacent territory, you'll tend to expand outwards in a blob, won't you? Mm-hmm. And then you'll think, oh, well, if I just put all my best units around the edge, and then I don't have to defend the middle quite so heavily. But you can still get nerfed by someone jumping in the middle, a beginner player can launch wherever he wants. He's got no territory. He can start from inside your base, like a rotten faction within your ranks, suddenly sprouting and blowing everything up. But then there's another problem here, right? Which is, what happens if you take over an entire island and nobody else can get to that island because there's no borders on it anymore? You've got there's just the sea around the edge. And we did have it so that you could also attack from anywhere from the sea. But that meant that coastal areas were terrible for defense. You can't possibly defend all of the coast of a particularly large island because there's too much of it. And it's like, okay. So we're thinking of having a port mechanism where there are ports that can, like, known crossing points from each of the different land masses in the game. So there's a bit of work to be done on that front, but that's what's going in the next iteration.
Kind of sounds like the old Madagascar problem from what was it? One of like those games where you're trying to manage like infections and plagues. I forget the name of it. There was a lot of those like in the 2010s.
Infections, that rings a bell. What's the Madagascar problem then? Is it the fact that when the whole island's gone, that you can't do anything with it?
That like once the island has like one port, and then the second it gets shut down, like literally you can't get to that one country because there's no other way to get to it because they only have one port and no airport.
Oh, great! Yeah. That's it, isn't it? We're got to have various ways to get about the map and let people expand across territories like that. But I think that'll make it a lot more strategically interesting. Because before, I just imagined the world was just effectively a database of territories you could try and attack. But of course, the players see this map and they go, "But I want this. I want France. I want the whole of France for myself. I want to defend its borders and not let anyone else in." It's like, yeah, I can kind of see that would be that's a thing that people would want to do. So to let them have a contiguous territory, if you like, without just random blips all over the place. So we do reward people for a contiguous territory. They get a much larger stockpile of silver. So not the production, but the stockpiling. Stockpiling is the amount you can hold overnight, effectively. So if you go to bed and your silver production will just stop at a certain point because you've reached the limit of your stockpile. But if you've got a really large contiguous territory, your stockpile is much bigger. You can store loads more silver. So you can come back, after a weekend away, have tons of silver, and then make loads of attacks. So there's an incentive to get a large contiguous piece of territory as it is. But it'll be more of a thing when I put this new mechanism in to make it so you have to attack from adjacents.
All right. And I guess another thing I wanted to ask you about, in terms of the long-term plans for the game, in terms of adding new units, what's the plan for how frequently units will be added? And when a new unit gets added, I guess, how does someone just buy access to it? Is it just spending silver to get access to a new unit? Is it, through the medals? How does someone acquire new units specifically for their army?
Well, there were going to be two ways for this. So, first of all, the frequency of new units depends on how quickly Chaz can actually crank them out. Some of them are quite complicated. The animations, they're not trivial to do. But once he works out a set of animations for say, Chicken Walker, he can usually tweak it and apply it to several designs at the same time. But let's say we can get out a new unit every week. So we could put 40 or 50 units out in a year. of varying new designs. And the idea is, obviously, we don't want people to just necessarily. Well, we do. We want people to buy them, right? But there's a subtle difference between buying them and unlocking them, if you see what I mean. Well, once a unit's been dropped to you randomly, right? So just playing the game, just logging in will give you a little medal for logging in. You click on the medal, poof, it says you've got a new droid. It'll pick it from any one of these new robots that we're making, plus existing ones. And if you get a new robot, then you can spend gold on buying more of them. So that's the mechanism. The unlocking is done through a medal, right? And then you spend gold to buy more of them just to have in your army. So you can try out this unit and see if it's any good. And if you think they're good, buy another 50 of them or something like that and use them. We will also probably arrange them into more collections of DLC packs as well. So we've got the Omnicorp DLC pack, and that's got loads and loads of droids. They have a particular theme about them. Yeah, they look like Omnicorp droids, and they use blaster weaponry. Whereas the Wojtek ones are multi-legged tank bots that fire artillery or rockets. So there's that's their thing, and then there's the Volksbot Cavalier stuff that kind of just cranky British stuff that doesn't work very well. So we're planning on more army packs and stuff, and it's like when Games Workshop or something says, yes, we've released this new orc set with loads of orcs in it, and you can buy this for 20 quid and that kind of thing. So very, very similar mechanism, except we'll probably release them one at a time over the months and then collect them all together into a pack. So existing players might not necessarily want to buy the packs because they'll just be getting them randomly in drops after all. But new players will come along and see the Steam page, go, oh yeah, I like the look of that bunch of robots. I'll go all in and just chuck 20 quid on that and start off with this lot.
Right.
And as for new tech, things like the disruptor and the flamethrower and things like that, we haven't released yet. We'll just patch them into the game as soon as we get them ready, and then they'll be available. So you can always add new stuff in the game.
Mm-hmm. Do you see the size of the map itself changing at all, or is that kind of fixed at this point?
Do you mean the world map or the battle map?
The world map.
The actual world, that's definitely fixed. I mean, it's massive. It's 250,000 territories in it, and another 700,000 water hexes that you can't use because the Earth is mostly water, right? Changing that would be really difficult, even just mathematically, because to make spheres, right, in computer games, you start by subdividing a dodecahedron, right? It's a D20. You've got 20-sided dice. Subdivide each face into smaller triangles, and then you go and blow it up like a balloon, so it's round. And you can do this iteratively a few times. And we've arrived at a good size for the Earth, where when you zoom out, there are so many territories that they're smaller than a single pixel. That's probably the sensible limit, isn't it? Really, when you can see the whole world, you can't make out the individual territories because they're so small. So if we find the world gets too crowded, which might happen, right? Think about it. There's only 250,000 territories. If 25,000 players turn up, that's only 10 each. There's going to be an almighty scrap for them. It might get too hot. So in the Kickstarter, we've literally promised the moon. If the Earth gets too big, we can see if we can figure out, well, can we add moon as well? Which obviously just like adding another 100,000 territories to the game. No water on it though, obviously, a bit dull. But and if the moon gets full, we could maybe add Mars as well. So we could add some more planets, but we can't really monkey with the existing planet because it is what it is.
Right. I guess I do want to ask you a few questions about the Kickstarter, but before we do that, anything else gameplay-wise that you would like to mention before we kind of move on to that topic?
So I've touched a little bit on the metagaming stuff. The metagame stuff's evolving. I'm talking to all the people on our Discord at the moment about, the players. They go, we discuss ideas a lot. They're helping to drive the design of the game. So the meta game is, all the stuff around the territories in the earth and where you can attack from and what's the purpose of attacking, why we're attacking, the mechanisms like the gold and the silver. Then the basic core loop is the build defenses and then try and attack other people, knock down their defenses, or watch them attacking you. And that, in essence, is the. I think we've covered all that quite well. There's a lot of different strategies you can try and employ. We're hoping that nothing is undefeated. People keep thinking they've made a base that can't be defeated, and people throw themselves at it and say, "No, I can't win," and then somebody go, "Oh, I just shot it with a howitzer from long range and it's blown it up." And it's like, "Oh, bloody hell!" So there's loads of strategy going on in there already, even though there's no interaction during the battle. There's an awful lot of thinking and planning goes into it, which is kind of like a real battle in some ways, because once things are off on their own, doing their own stuff, you can't really tell them what to do. They'll get on with it. So apart from that, we're having to think about the single player aspect of it. How can we make a single player game? That's in the very, very preliminary stages of how to do this. So I couldn't tell you anything about it because we have no idea what to do. All I know is that we want to do one and make a, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 level single player campaign like in Revenge of the Titans, where you start small, gradually work your way to some giant battle at the end across the earth. Again, complicated because are you in the attack position or are you in defense? Do we have both? Do we have both at the same time, or is it two separate campaigns? I don't know. We just don't know yet. Fun times trying to figure that one out.
All right. So with that, I want to discuss a little bit about the Kickstarter for Battledroid, as it is, of course, going on right now as we're recording this, and should be still up by the time this cast goes up for people to listen to. So,
Cool.
For people looking at the Kickstarter now, what are some the rewards, or what can people pledge towards for the game?
So we've rather cheesily given our rewards ranks, which are the same ones in the game. These are British Army, actual ranks of the British Army, like the Warrant Officer, the £10 tier, which is, I don't know, $8 or $9, I think, is the cheapest tier. And that was you start as a warrant officer in the game. So as you know, your silver income is based on your rank to start with. So that's a big boost in how much you can play straight away just by having more silver every day than random free player turn up. And we're offering beta access if the Kickstarter succeeds. We're going to give out everybody keys to the beta before it goes into Steam Early Access. Kick the tires. So the game's up and running now. The demo players are all going to get booted off in a few days' time. As soon as the Kickstarter's over, the demo's going. Everybody's accounts will be reset. All of their armies will be deleted, and it'll as if they're never there. But if they rejoin the game when it's released in early access, they'll find that they've still got all their gold they might have picked up randomly. But back to the Kickstarter. As well as your £10 warrant officer reward of getting a beta access and starting as a warrant officer, you'll get some gold as well. We're going to give you 20 quid's worth of gold to start with the game, so you can buy a whole load of units to your choice as well. So it's just like a leg up. If you back us, we'll give you twice as much as free players would otherwise be getting when they start playing the game if they buy gold. And that's the simplest easy tier, and every little helps. If you've only got a tenner, excellent. Next level up is second lieutenant. Nobody's ever satisfactorily explained to me why it's pronounced lieutenant. Right? It's spelled lieutenant, but it's pronounced lieutenant. Don't know why, it just is. For 25 quid, right? I don't know, what's that, $20 or something? We'll give you all of the launch DLC as well. Right, as well as obviously the second lieutenant rank. But all the launch DLC means all of the Omnicorp robots, all of the Wojtek ones, all of the Voxbot Cavalier. So you get all 3 army packs right off the bat. So the whole gamut of strategy will be available to you from the start. Obviously, this is the most popular tier. Everybody seems to quite like this one. There's a little graph somewhere that says, but it's like a big spike. Everybody's gone for $25. That's good. And obviously, we'll give you a whole load of gold, 50 quid's worth of gold, in fact, just for the sake of it. Next tier up on that, we've got the lieutenant, 50 quid one, as opposed to second lieutenant. I don't know why a second lieutenant is less than a full lieutenant, but there we are. And for 50 quid, we're also, in case you haven't already, we're going to give you our entire collection of games. Steam keys for all of our ones. So we've got Titan Attacks, Droid Assault, Ultratron, Revenge of the Titans, and Basingstoke for 25 quid extra. There's quite a lot of games. It's good. I suspect that a lot of people who've backed this Kickstarter probably own most of our games already, because otherwise nobody seems to know who the hell we are. So, right. Then for more serious money, 100 quid here, you get all of that, and we're going to give you an extra special credit in the game, where you can stick your Twitter handle in or a website URL or whatever. We'll put it on the credit screen. Say, you go, just buy some GameWinsdom.com, right on the title screen there. And an exclusive skin set that only Kickstarters of the £100 tier will get. So imagine if we made a series of like scary looking black droids with green eyes. Yeah, or with skull motifs on them or something like that. Only people back in this world will have this skin set for their armies. So, but there are skins in the game. We haven't actually released anything to the demo yet to make it. We're working on the code to make it work smoothly and nice. But so there's going to be a skin set at that level. This will mark you out as being considerably more awesome and attractive than anyone else, as you'd expect. And then for even more crazy money, we've got 250 quid. 11 backers, not bad. Which gives you all that stuff plus some units that only people who back at this level get. So we get some totally exclusive units just to people that back at this. So there's only 11 people in the world currently. 11 people will have these special Kickstarter exclusive units. Nobody else will have them ever, because we won't ever sell them to anyone else. They'll be special. So that's why they're so valuable. And also a lifetime Battledroid subscription. You're thinking, what do you mean subscription? Well, it's like if you're in this tier, we're basically going to give you like 1,000 gold every day or something like that, or 5,000 gold every day. I can't remember the number. Forever. So every time you log in, you'll get another 5,000 gold, just to keep buying more units. As well you should, for 250 quid. It's a lot of money to spend on the game. Our least popular tier is the one just after this, which is Lieutenant Colonel, the designer. It's £500, and that is a serious amount of money for a computer game. So you'd have to be, very awesome. But you get to design your own exclusive skin set, which only you get. So maybe you want that, scary black robots with skull motif and green eyes. Nobody else can have that. People, tremble in fear when they see your robots arrive. Because oh wow, it's that dude, the one guy who spent £500 on Battledroid to get this skin set. Here he is. He's going to kick my ass. Not only that, of course, he's starting at Lieutenant Colonel rank, so he'll have tons of silver and a subscription to gold, so he'll have millions of robots as well. And then finally, we've got an amazing 5 backers at the Colonel level, right? 1,000 quid, insane. These guys are amazing. I'd love to be rich enough to back a game at 1,000 quid myself, but obviously. If I was that rich, I wouldn't be begging for money from other people in the first place. These guys we're going to design units for them. They can design their own unit. It could be anything. It could be a robot. It could be a turret. It could even be fancy base. I imagine there's some, Egyptian players who would really like an enormous pyramid or a sphinx or something like that to use as a base. This is the tier for them. It's actually quite good value for money because, of course, 1,000 quid it gets you all the previous stuff as well, but it also means taking a week or two of Chaz's time just to sit there and work out what you want. It's gonna have to talk to Chaz and say, well, I want it to do this, and I want it to have bristling with guns, and I want it to have the wings of a bat and the tail of a bee and all that. It's like, well, what? Chaz is gonna have to figure out crazy ideas from some people, turn them into robots, and of course a special badge. Also, at this tier, you get to permanently name a territory. So, right? Because when you've conquered a territory in the game, you can name it, and that's just a thing. Only your friends can see the names, though, right? Because otherwise, you'll get loads of really offensive names. So it's really to help you identify your own territories that you conquered. But permanently naming a territory means everybody will know where Basingstoke is, because it will be permanently named on the map.
So I have to get in. There's like a name place Joshville, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you wanted a Joshville, you need to give me thousand of your Earth pounds.
There you go.
So that's our rewards. Maybe the Kickstarter could be doing a little better. Where are we at? We've got we've just got an extension to it, right? We had a week to go, and we were only at like 50% funded. So we talked to Kickstarter and said, "Hey, we might not make this. Perhaps could we have a little bit more time?" And they said, "Yeah, okay, sure. Have another week." So we're just about to announce that we've got another week on the Kickstarter.
Okay.
We're 57% funded of our admittedly modest goal. I don't know what it is in dollars, but it's not a great deal of money, and it'll all go to a good cause, which is cigarettes and coffee for Chaz. He needs those things. It's important stuff. So yeah, we're hoping some people just chuck a few more quid our way and just get us to that line there. To say we're just under 2/3 funded, or just over halfway, depending how pessimistic you are. 13 days to go.
I guess as another point, so as you said earlier, for the people listening to us, the demo you have up now, that is going to still be available as of the time when this recording goes up, but it is going to be taken down after the Kickstarter. Is that still right?
Yep. 13 days time. Well, call it 2 weeks. Bam, it's going to vanish. Stop working. Mainly because the demo has all of the progression and in-app purchase stuff has been disabled from it. It was just to demonstrate blowing each other up. Just have some fun blowing some stuff up. It was just the battle part. It's like, forget the metagame, forget the in-app purchase, forget all that stuff. Don't worry about pay to win or anything. Just go and blow each other up and have a bit of fun. And it was just for Next Fest, but because Steam screwed up Next Fest for us so badly, we released it on the last day of Next Fest, right? So I asked Steam a couple of months ago. I said, "Hey, can we put Battledroid in Next Fest?" And they went, "No." I went, "What? Why not?" So I appealed, and then they get back to us another week later and said, "No." Like, what the hell? Why not? And they did, and that was it. And it's like, okay, fine. So we forgot all about it and said, well, that's great. And then 2 days before Next starts or something like that, they go, "Congratulations, your game's been selected to be at Next Fest." It was like, oh god. So I had to cobble this demo together really quickly and it's like, what can we do for a demo? So just like, and then we submitted it and they rejected it. They said, no, it's got a link to Patreon buried on another screen. You've got to get rid of it. But it took them like 3 days to respond and things like that, and it went on for the whole week. We got out on the last day of Next Fest. In the last few hours, our demo was approved and released. It's like, great. So we've decided to run the demo for the whole of the Kickstarter rather than just for the week of Next Fest. I don't know whether it's been helpful or not, because I've often said about demos that they give people excuses to not buy games, usually, rather than the other way around. It's counterintuitive, but people will try and get a demo and go, "That's not for me," because they've invested nothing in it. Whereas sometimes people will buy a game and go, "Right, I put 20 quid into this. I'm going to find out what makes it tick. I'm going to really learn about it and get to know its mechanisms." Because if you invest £20 in something, you want to have some fun with it. So demos are, as often as not, just turn people off because they're just like, they get their fix. "Oh, that was fun blowing stuff up. Don't need to see that again," and then they'll wander off and never come back. So you give away an awful lot with a demo, including the sale. So that was a discovery we made nearly 20 years ago about demos. It was quite interesting, and then the industry pretty much followed suit. You remember about 15, 20 years ago, demos just started disappearing. And that's because everybody cottoned on. It's like, hold on a minute, people are just trying demos, getting all the fun they want out of it, and then buggering off. It's coming back round a bit now. I don't know. Demos is now. I think Steam Next Fest, ironically, is bringing back the concept of the demo a bit more. Don't necessarily know how successful it is, but one of the key things about the Steam Next Fest demos is they often disappear after Next Fest. So you get a quick taster, and then that's it. It's gone. It's like, oh, bugger. If you enjoy it, hopefully you wish listed it and you come back and get it when it comes out. So yeah, demo's going to go, and everything's going to be reset if you've got a demo account. Because demo account players got a whole load of extra droids compared to the beta testers. Because I wanted them to experience a bit more fun. So yeah, they're all going.
Mm-hmm. I guess one thing I want to ask you about regarding like the demo and the general play of Battledroid. Something that I've noticed with some of these games that kind of go for the like asynchronous play, where you're able to attack other players, and kind of progression is built on attacking other people, is that if there aren't enough people in the game, or there's not enough territories for you to conquer, that a lot of the lower to like mid-level players can sometimes just kind of end up in this situation where there's nothing more I can do. Like, there's literally no more characters at my level that I can play, so I can't progress anymore. This happened to me when I was playing a free-to-play game that was like 5, 6 years ago, like on, I think it was like PSN, where I hit like level 15, and there was literally no one like level 16 to 25, so the game wouldn't let me matchmake. So I was not allowed to progress anymore, because there's literally like no one at that level the game would like put me up against. In Battledroid, are there like any contingencies or things set in place so that if, let's say, someone logs on, let's say there's like no one around them, or they're unfortunately like no one's like available on the server, can they still make progress, like conquering territories?
So this is the beauty of asynchronous design and effectively user generated content, is that the content's there. Once it's there, it's there. It does it. The only way to get rid of it is to blow it up. So when you got 250,000 territories to play on, they are eventually all going to fill up. All of the empty, because currently the world is empty. There's a weird land grab situation at the start of the release. Is that the world is empty? There's no opposition to taking any of it. So all of the beginner players, the beta players, everything are just trying to carve out huge tracts of land and fill them with armies. But if they then wander off and just get bored and don't play anymore, their armies are still there, and any new players coming along has to defeat them to get some land. There's always somebody that needs kicking. There's just there'll be 250,000 territories full of enemies to blow up. Even if because it's points matched, even if you think you're like level, you're ranked, you're a field marshal. Some warrant officer can still get in your way and be irritating because they've made a really good defense with a few cleverly designed unit choices. So I'm hoping that in the grand scheme of things, there's going to be some players who will probably just play this to death, and that will play it for hours and hours and hours, months or years, hopefully. Or they may they'll take huge pieces of like China and keep them to themselves, or the whole of Australia or Antarctica or something like that. There's going to be somebody whose mission is, I'm going to have Australia, it's mine, and that's that. Australia's massive. You don't realise just how big Australia is until you pan the world around, look at it, and think, oh wow, there's like 50,000 territories just in Australia for somebody. That's quite an endeavour to capture that many. Likewise, there's going to be people that endlessly squabble over the Gaza Strip. I'm predicting there's going to be little, personal nationalistic feuds over bits of land, which would be quite mercenary of me, but that's the way things are. So I think there's always going to be someone to fight. No matter what level you get to, there's going to be somebody causing a problem or a bother. And even if you think there's no one to fight, they'll fight you. You'll log in one day and you think, I'll just go chicken in my empire. What? Where's Japan gone? I had all of Japan last night. Now someone's come along and taken the whole thing off me while I was asleep. Because that happens. There's a little digest. We've got an email digest that you can get. Tells you while you're asleep, you lost all of your territory. Haha, sucks to be you. So yeah, it's really just how much investment are you going to spend in time on it. If it's really fun, if you're really enjoying it, hopefully you'll play for years. And if it does work out that way, we can keep dynamically adding ever sillier stuff to the game to make it entertaining for people to play even more.
And I guess to keep with that, one thing that I know everyone will always ask about games like this is, what does the end game look like? What does it look like in terms of people who have hours and hours and they've risen up all the way to like the top of your promotions? Like, how does a game change, or does it change? Like, for people who reach like the late game, end game portion of it.
I don't know, because weird thing, right? I've never finished any of my own games. Right? Made loads of games, but the only way I've ever got to the end is by cheating. But there are weird people out there who really do play them a lot. And I one guy emailed me on the PuppyGames support email. He said, "I'm on Droid Assault on level 77, and all of them have got lasers, and I've got a laser reflective robot, and they can't hurt me, and I can't hurt them. How do I beat this level?" And I went, "I don't know. I've never seen level 77. Why is it so important?" He said, "Because I'm getting married today, and I've got to beat the game before I get married." No one. That's the kind of leanies. Bless him. I hope he's had a wonderful marriage after that. He's clearly really special. You've married the right guy. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. The end game's a mystery because I never really get that far in games myself. But the top rank in the game is Field Marshal. It's the top rank in the British Army. And yeah, to attain that, you would have to have uniquely conquered 25,000 territories. That's a lot. That's 10% of the Earth. There's not many generals in history who've managed to conquer 10% of the Earth without somebody getting in their way and screwing their plans up. So we'll see when we get there, if we ever get there, if anyone who manages to get to the end. I think we might have a massive prize for them. Take them out to dinner and stuff. Prizes, that's an idea. There's an interesting aspect of the game that I mentioned earlier, is that it's deterministic. It should be. It isn't yet. It's broken. But the entire battle is determined right at the start by a single randomly generated seed number, which is generated on the server and sent back at the time of the attack. This initializes all the random number generators in the game. So that whenever you play that battle back over and over again, it will play out exactly the same every single time. Right? That's the record that goes to the server, which means anybody can watch that battle and see exactly what happened. Doesn't work yet. There's a bug, but we'll fix it. Right? But this is really interesting because when the attack is made, the attacker does not know the seed that is going to be used.
Mm-hmm.
But the results are calculated on the attacker's machine. So you can see, well, hold on a minute. If the attacker just says they've won, how's anyone going to know any better? Because the attacker runs a simulation, not the defender, it's the attacker. Right? So think about it. If there was anything of tangible value behind the result, we'd have cheaters all over the game, wouldn't we? They'd be going, I'll just cheat completely. However, because the battles are deterministic, we can play them back and determine whether they actually happened that way or not. So we have a sliding scale of believability with battle results, ranging from we don't care, which is what happens if the attacker loses, we don't care if they lose, to yep, that was definitely perfectly kosher, or that seems a bit suspicious because it's such an imbalanced game and they still won. And then we're going to have this. I believe some other games use this mechanism where they have a verification system where you have your player base play verifications. They replay battles on their machines just to prove that what happened said happened, and you give them a little reward like some gold or a unit or something like that just for playing other people's battles and verifying them. And of course, we can verify them as well. We can run our own servers. The trouble is, we can't run it on your typical Linux server, which is where the game is hosted at the moment, because it needs to have a GPU, because it simulates all of the voxels of every voxel in the ground is a potential collision object, and the server doesn't have any of that information. So you need to run a client, right? So us replaying all the battles to our own satisfaction is a complicated endeavor, but it means that ultimately we can. And what this brings to the table, finally, is that with a verification process, we can attach something of tangible value to the outcome of a battle. And one of the ideas we had, which is maybe on the shadier side of ethical, is gambling on gold. So imagine if you say, right, 2,000 gold says my defense stands. And then if you want to attack that, you have to put 2,000 gold in as well. And then the winner takes all. Nobody knows in advance who's going to win. And if you think your territory is that awesome that you'll dare put 2,000 gold in it and hope nobody spots it, then you might win a lot of gold from another player or several other players, who try and beat your defense before you finally lose and lose that 2,000 gold. But that's the kind of thing that's only possible when you have a fully deterministic battle. As another convenient side effect is that when Chaz is recording videos of the battles, do YouTube stuff, show off for things, he can play the same battle over and over again and get different shots of the action. Very, very useful side effect that we hadn't realised was going to be so handy. We should have a prize, like we should have a video competition for people to film the best battle. We've got there's loads of camera controls in the game. You can set up like 8 or 10 camera positions or something like that, and then change their zoom and height and all that kind of stuff, and lerp between them at different speeds, so you can actually record. That's how all of the footage Chaz has recorded YouTube has all been recorded in game. So, it's, which is also funny because Valve rejected our trailer because they said it should show in-game footage. So, but it is. It's all in-game footage. How do you think we made it? They were like, oh. So then they accepted it.
All right. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions I have for you. About the Kickstarter, we talked about progression. Oh, I guess one thing I wanted to ask you. Going back to where you were saying a few minutes ago about having the skins or the units being exclusive to Kickstarter. That's always a very sticking point that I know a lot of people have about like Kickstarter projects and just like crowdfunding in general. Are you open, or have you thought about having them be an option for like late adopters at some point in the future, or are you going to keep strictly to it's Kickstarter only and that's that?
I think that the true value of the Kickstarter only skins and units is literally they will be totally exclusive. Like you can't say they're exclusive and then go thanks for the money, but they're not exclusive anymore, because that would be a bit unfair. I mean, we could ask them. Is that you know that exclusive robot? Would you mind if we sell it to somebody? And if they're okay with that, then that's fine too. But I think it's fair that they should be kept exclusive. We're going to make a load of skins anyway, and we're going to keep making new robots and units. So there's going to be a supply of stuff who want stuff, but those guys who've paid that top tier Kickstarter stuff should be rest assured that their stuff's unique and will always be theirs and only theirs. You know, until such time as they grow bored with it, and say yeah, go on then, let somebody else have it too. I'm bored with the game. I'm going to go and play something else. It's only fair.
Right, I think that's about it in terms of questions for me. I guess before we go into kind of like final wrap up, just as some general stuff for you, Kaz. Anything else regarding the Kickstarter or the general gameplay of Battledroid?
I think I've almost talked myself hoarse. So the Kickstarter's only got 2 weeks to go. Hasn't got to make a lot more money. If anybody's watching this and is really interested in proper hardcore game design mechanics, right? Battledroid's got a lot of stuff going on in there for people to play with. It'd be really great if some Game Wisdom watchers are into this kind of stuff. I imagine there's a high proportion of people interested in this kind of stuff who watch Game Wisdom because it's pretty deeply nerdy, right? So extremely geeky subject. Battledroid is being made by extreme geeks like me. We talk a lot about the game mechanics on the Discord as well. So if you're really interested and want to come and talk about it, maybe even influence the game design, because sometimes people come up with great ideas, and I take them on board, and I really like some people's ideas, and it's like, yeah, okay, we could try that, and if it works, it stays in the game. Enjoyed Assault, the key mechanic of the game where you collect robots by taking over their minds and then they run around on their own after you. That was somebody else's idea. They said, how about if they remain yours when you, and it was like, oh wow, yeah, what a great idea. And swap between them. That kind of thing. So yeah, please come along, chat on our Discord if you want to, and throw some money at the Kickstarter if you're feeling flush and rich and want to support us.
All right. So, I guess to begin to wrap things up for the conversation, in terms of, I guess, like general plans for the game following the Kickstarter. So, again, there's still going to be 2 weeks by the time as recording this, probably less by the time people are watching this. What are kind of like the overall plans, I guess, in terms of putting the game out there or bringing it back up into early access following the Kickstarter?
We've got about a month between the end of the Kickstarter and release. So it's not a massive secret, but basically it's early August is the release to early access. Early access, of course, lets us get away with a number of sins Let's call them bugs. Yeah. Plenty of bugs. The plan is to release it with as many things in as possible into early access. Then Chaz is going to be working on quite a lot of stuff graphically with it. We want to get tutorials, in-game kind of tutorials and stuff like that in there, because at the moment it's totally opaque as to what's going on. Nobody really understands how to play it. We have to explain it over and over. And then iterate on it regularly. We've been putting out builds every couple of hours, sometimes every couple of weeks, every couple of months. We're constantly doing updates to the game, and adding new stuff to it and making it better. And we plan to do that just as long as we can, funding allowing for it. If it starts to bring in some cash from Steam in early access, that would be awesome. It would be kickstarted. We might possibly have some interest from publishers who might help. They might promote the hell out of the game and chuck us a ton of cash to make it better. Don't know yet. But right now, our plan is fund Chaz for some months, get him to add more stuff into the game, keep working on it, and spend the rest of the money on an advertising campaign. Who knows what's going to happen? We're in uncharted territory because we've never made a free-to-play game before. Totally different to all the other stuff I've ever done. You release it and go, there you go, my pretty fly. Please bring home loads of money. But this is different. I mean, how do you sell something to somebody that when they don't have to pay you any money? So nobody believes in it. All the rest of the family are like, "Oh, you really sure you don't want to sell it for something?" It's like, no, it's got to be free. And they're like, "Oh, it might not make any money." It's like, yeah, but we have to take that risk.
The nature of the beast when it comes to the free-to-play market.
It's frightening as hell. It really is. I mean, we've spent over 10 years making it. It's like, what if it didn't make it? If it's just a complete flop? It's like, oh man. So the miserable Kickstarter performance has been a bit off-putting, a bit stressful. Thinking, oh god, if this is all you can make on a Kickstarter will it make it on Steam? We just don't know. We don't know if there's any correlation at all. Can only hope.
I guess, speaking about platforms, are there any plans to bring this to mobile in any respect?
Very unlikely. Mainly because it's written Java. Java's quite hard to port, believe it or not. The whole selling point of Java was it runs everywhere, except it doesn't. It doesn't run anywhere at all. It runs on desktops, and that's pretty much the only place it runs. It's a really state-of-the-art graphics engine as well. I don't think there's much in the way of phone hardware that could cope with it, apart from that new top-end Apple stuff. Might have a GPU pokey enough to render it justice. It runs on the Steam Deck, which is nice. It actually runs quite well on the Steam Deck, although you need to plug a mouse in. But actual mobile, no. And also, of course, the problem with mobile is that the marketplace in mobile is absolutely sewn up. There's like 3 companies dominate everything, and nobody else gets to look in. So it's like, well, why bother? So we kind of just gave up on the idea of mobile at this point. Although Basingstoke is coming out on the PlayStation. Yeah, so watch out for that, folks. That'll be fun.
Are there plans for console ports of Battledroid?
Again, probably not, because the whole user interface is very mouse centric, and it's the game design doesn't really lend itself to the kind of jump in and the action kind of thing that console play tends to have. I never say never, but again, the real problem is porting the Java code over. It would take a long time. The consoles have enough graphical oomph, but we'd just have to rewrite everything from scratch, and that would take a very long time. And then we'd end up with 2 completely different code bases to try and support. Because the common server, we would like everybody to play with everybody else. So we wouldn't want to segregate the PlayStation players from the Windows players, for example. That would be rubbish. So having to support all the platforms at the same time would suddenly get out of hand. So we knows our place. We'll stick to our humble circle of what we're able to do well enough. I think the desktop market's big enough for us to survive.
All right. So I think with that we can wrap things up for the chat. And Kat, suddenly best of luck for the Kickstarter. Like I said, for the people watching this recorded, it should be still going on, so be sure to check that out. And I guess we'll try and give a play of the game on stream as well, just to see how much I can fuss around or break the game. Because if you've watched the streams of when I play games from indie developers, there's a 70% chance I will find that one game-breaking bug you didn't know existed, but is in your game.
I know there's several in there already. You'll find them. But yeah, it would be really cool to watch you play it. Be interested to watch you flounder for a bit because there's no instructions. But then, if you like, I can tell you how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It does help. Just let me know, and I'll kind of like join in the chat and try and tell you how it goes when you're playing it. Are you planning to stream it sometime soon?
I was thinking maybe like a Saturday night or something like that, as maybe Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. I'll stand by. Let me know, and we'll watch you play.
All right.
Then I'll come and blow up your base.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you can just note every you can just build a tutorial around me floundering around with the game, like just see this guy, don't do what he's doing right now.
Yeah, don't copy him, he's wrong.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess to wrap things up for the chat, anything you'd like to say to the fans watching, any final points about Battledroid, anything to take us out
on? I really hope as many people get to play it as possible. Really, it's free for a reason. We just wanted as many people to play it as could, whether they got any money or not. So just enjoy it. We like making games. Obviously, we've been doing this one for like over 10 years, just for fun. But it'd be nice to make a living from it at the same time. So please give generously.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, if people want to follow you anywhere, any social media you like to promote, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah, we've obviously got the PuppyGames. It's on Facebook, really easy to find. Twitter as well, @PuppyGames. And there's a Discord link kicking around somewhere. Come and say hello. We like Discord. We've got quite a quiet, civilized Discord. Not too many people in it. We used to have a vanity URL for it, but it got hacked, and the famous hack that took down Valheim a few months ago. Yeah, that's a long story. I'll tell you another time. So yeah, please drop along, say hello. I like talking to people.
All right. So, with that said, Cass, I think we'll wrap things up for our chat. And if you're free in the future, we can always do a follow-up.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So, that's everyone. Be sure to check out the Kickstarter for Battledroid. And if I do get that play up in the meantime, I will post a link to it down below as well. So, for myself, do the YouTubing stuff, check out the Discord, the Patreon, buy all the copies of the books that will make you feel excited about taking over the world, one territory at a time. And as I said at the start, if you are a developer working on an upcoming game and want to come on and chat about it, please reach out. So, Cass, thank you again for coming on, and hopefully by the time this cast goes up, there'll be some good news to report for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. So, with that, everyone, come back for discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until our next chat, have a great night.